Well, welcome back, friends. I'm going to go over the Expo guide right now. Not too much difference, changes, all that fun stuff. But this is actually take two of this because for some reason the first time I did this did not have any audio. So let's try this again. But like I said, not too much difference between last year, this year, or any of the other Run Disney race weekends. But we'll dive in and find out what's happening for Springtime Surprise 2023.
3, 2, 1, go!
Away from the main page of the Expo guide, you can go to the weekend or the Expo or digital Expo portion of the event guide, and you'll find that there's plenty of info on the vendors, sponsors, all that fun stuff. Just typical, Run Disney race weekend things. The one thing I do want to point out is the 50% off water parks discount is back. In the past few race weekends, it has been for Blizzard Beach. Obviously, Blizzard Beach is now closed for refurbishment, so now Typhoon Lagoon is open, and that's where the offer is valid. You can use it, I believe it's from the April 12th through April 19th, and any time in there. I know when I used it for Blizzard Beach, the discount came to about $34 per ticket. You can use it for yourself and up to 3 guests. So if you have a family of 4, it works out perfectly. And you just need to show your medal, bib, whatever, some race, proof that you're running that weekend. That at either at the ticket booth at Typhoon Lagoon or at the ticket booth at ESPN Wild Rose Sports. Which, if you're not familiar with, they have one right as you're entering the expo, to the right on. Before the merchandise, right on the merchandise building at the arena. It's right below. Last time for Princess, they had a old retro car. I think it was a station wagon or something was like a promo vehicle for the discount. That was out there last time, so it was right by that, just to kind of to help you find where that may be. But yeah, that's a great thing to take advantage of. Definitely take advantage of that if you can. And of course, getting into the actual fun of the weekend, the races and events themselves. We, of course, Springtime Surprise this year is Pixar themed, so everything around it is Pixar. We start off the week with yoga, so that's what I'm going to talk about first because that actually happens before the expo even starts. So that's what I want to dive into first before getting into all the other fun nonsense. So yoga will take place April 12th, or yes, 13th. Date's wrong. Anyways, April 12th, the day I get there. That's why, I don't know, I'm all mixed up, Dates are all, ever since COVID, time is just not a thing. Anyways, April 13th, Thursday, April 13th, 5 a.m. at Hollywood Studios. This is a change from past race weekends. They've been normally holding it at Magic Kingdom, and so this is the first time they're holding it at Hollywood Studios, so different, place. I'm assuming, it doesn't really say, I'm assuming it's going to be on Hollywood Boulevard, as you walk up towards the Chinese Theater. That would make the most sense to kind of have the space there for it, but you never know, maybe they'll do it somewhere else. Anyways, starts at 5. Their check-in starts at 4:15. Parking will be available starting at 4. So the one thing I want to touch on for sure, though, is transportation. If you are at All-Star Sports, for example, pickup is at 3:30. But if you're at All-Star Movies, pickup is at 3:35. There is only one bus and only one pickup time. So if you miss that, you're out of luck and you won't be getting there. So you have to find your own transportation. The pickup times range pretty much from 3:30 to 3:40 though, so you'll be in that window. Obviously, if you get out there by before 3:30, that's probably best, just to make sure you're there in time. But for your specific pickup time, be sure to check out the guide if you're doing yoga, because that will have which resort you're staying at and which pickup time you have. So that's really the most important thing about yoga compared to the races, because it's not a set, like usually for the races you have buses start at 3 and they go till they have a set time range, where this doesn't. It's one specific time. So that's really the biggest thing you need to make sure of for yoga if you are doing that. Outside of that, if you're doing yoga, have fun. I will not be. Not really a yoga kind of guy, but enjoy it. Next up, I will touch on the expo itself. Again, standard expo, nothing too crazy, nothing too different. Expo hours, first day 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Day 2, which is Friday, April 14th, opens at noon and goes till 6. And then the day 3 on Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So a little bit shorter time range, but most people should have their stuff by then anyways. Really, like I said, no crazy changes to the expo. Much like every other race weekend this season, if you are going to go to merchandise, you will need a virtual queue spot that first day. Just that first day. Virtual queue, just like Marathon Weekend and just like Princess, will open at 8:30 a.m. The expo itself won't open until 10. I know sometimes the callback time may get a little bit ahead of that. Sometimes, it may start calling you back at like 9:30, 9:45. If you have one of those very early groups, 1 through 5-ish or whatever, they may start calling you just before 10 o'clock. But really you shouldn't, they're trying to get people to not come before that 10 o'clock time on day 1. Obviously, if you are Club Run Disney, Gold or Platinum, you will be able to go ahead of time and get your advanced merchandise stuff, and you don't need to go through the whole virtual queue process, which is one of the decent perks of Club Run Disney. But I am not Club Run Disney. I will be with the rest of you joining the virtual queue to get there and get into the merchandise. But otherwise, that's really the main thing for the expo itself. You won't see too much other transportation wise. All the typical hotels are hosting, or will have bus transportation. All Walt Disney World hotels plus Swan Dolphin, Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green. Transportation will start 30 minutes before the expo opens, so 9:30 on day 1, and then ends 30 minutes after to get back to your resort. Like I said, outside of that, if you look at the expo maps here, your merchandise center, which is in the arena, all standard, pretty stuff. There was the pre-purchased merchandise area, just like there was for Princess. Also, you'll have your character meet and greet areas, also like they've been doing for the last couple years. Outside of that, the athletic center will be where all your vendors are, and t-shirt pickup. Vendors, pretty standard vendors. Nothing too, didn't really notice anything that jumped out at me as new this time around. There probably is, and I'm just not, finding it. But Jeff Galloway will be there. KT Tape, Sparkle Athletic, all those things that are typically there for a Run Disney race weekend. And then last but not least, the State Farm Fieldhouse will be where bib pickup is. Challenge, 10K, 10 miler. They're all on the main floor. I know sometimes they do put some stuff up in the upper floor. That's usually only for Marathon Weekend and Dopey. So just everything will be in one spot this time around. And then runner relations, and if you have problems with your Run Disney account, that will also be there as well. And then moving on to the 5K. That's our first event. That will take place Friday. Race start at 5 a.m. per usual, typical race start. It is Cars themed. And the only change from last year to this year really is the course, but it's not a new course. It's the standard 5K course we see at all Run Disney weekends in Walt Disney World. Last year, the 5K was held at Animal Kingdom as part of the Expedition Everest 5K. So this year it's back into its standard 5K. So you'll start in the Epcot parking lot per usual. You'll go through behind and or around the parking lot backstage under a test track, and then enter in by Mexico and Norway around World Showcase, just out by the Skyliner International Gateway, back in behind the UK, and then out towards the front between Connections Creations, and then behind Mission Space, and then underneath Guardians to the finish. Pretty simple. Only one water stop per usual. That'll be in America. Nothing too crazy with this one. Standard, typical Run Disney 5K. I will touch on the start and staging. Nothing different really there either. But as you can see here, you will get dropped off at your, the resort bus stops. Then have to go through main security and then out to the park or the reunion gathering area. For all three races this weekend, because it is a 10-miler and not a half, we will not start on the roadway. So all the start groups for each race will be in that same spot. So we don't have that long walkout this week for the 10-miler like we would for other Run Disney race weekends. So that's kind of nice, but still, it's still a decent walk from getting dropped off by the buses through security and then to where you need to go for the race itself. Like I said, rest of the stuff all standard. Your finish chute, you get your medals, water Powerade, challenge medals on the last day if you are a challenge runner, food, and then out into the reunion area, which will have photos, characters, DJ, all that fun stuff. So all the same typical Run Disney stuff we know and love. That is the Cars 5K. So, taking us to the 10K, one thing I did not touch on with the 5K, which I tend to forget about until later, which is why I'm doing it now, but transportation-wise, transportation for all three races will start at 3 a.m. This is for the 10-miler. I know for some other weekends, usually they're the largest race, or the two, like a marathon weekend for the half and full, or Princess and Wine and Dine just the half. Those races may have transportation start a half hour earlier. For this one, it is just 3 a.m. for all three. So that's just a slight difference, but make sure you get on those buses. They want everybody on a bus by 4, or they want you there by 4. But pre-race transportation, quote unquote, will be 3 to 5. Don't get on a bus at 5 if it's probably won't make it to the race if you're getting on a bus at 5. Those are usually for spectators and people that are coming to watch the finish and that kind of thing. Outside of that, getting into the course itself, now this is the same course that they used for the Marathon Weekend 10K. Little bit different from the Princess 10K course and the Wine and Dine 10K course. So same start area. You'll go out and do it onto the highway and do a hairpin turn, and then back into Epcot, right by the Imagination Pavilion and the land in that area. That'll be mile 3. So you do basically 3 miles before you even get into park time. But then after that, it's all fun basically from there. So you'll go, and then just a little bit inside Epcot, you'll run back out by in between the UK and Canada there. That's where there'll be a water stop there, and then you'll be out into the Beach Club Boardwalk area, do a loop around there, and then out back through International Gateway into World Showcase. You'll go behind backstage behind Ratatouille, and then back into World Showcase. One more water stop in America, and then around the rest of World Showcase, out through that same standard finisher chute we basically do. Between Connections and Creations, behind Mission Space, out under Guardians, and then to the finish. It's, to me, I prefer this 10K course because you feel your worst part essentially is the first few miles, whereas some of these other courses, they put your worst part either in the middle or the end, and that's not always great. So I like this one because it feels like the first half may not be great, but the second half really is. So that's why I prefer this one to the other one, because the other one, you just dip into Hollywood Studios for a quick second, and then just doesn't give you the, yeah, you get two parks, but it's just not like the this one or some of the other race courses. Outside of that, nothing too much different with the 10K. And then finally, moving on to the final race of the weekend, Sunday, is the Toy Story 10 miler. And if you were a fan of the the 10 miler last year, Tower of Terror 10 miler, this is the exact same course, so you will be happy to know that. Much like all the other races, 5 o'clock start. They buses start at 3. Now the kind of the difference is, in the past you'll see half and full marathons, they all allow monorail transportation those mornings. For this one, there is no monorail transportation for any of the races, so it's bus only for all 3. Just make sure if you're staying at a monorail resort, you are taking a bus, not the monorail. Outside of that, let's get into the course. Like I said, no real changes from last year. Again, starting in the Epcot parking lot, going around just like the 5K, going around that parking lot, entering in Epcot, back behind Test Track area there, in by Mexico. Then around World Showcase, your first water stop will be in America. There's a water stop for all 3 races in America, so just something interesting, I guess, to point out. You'll go out behind Ratatouille again, then out International Gateway, around the boardwalk, and then through down that International Squeezeway or pathway between the boardwalk and Hollywood Studios. You'll enter Hollywood Studios basically in the front, just around the side there, and then you will go into Galaxy's Edge. This is one of the big highlights of this course. You run through Galaxy's Edge, and then of course through Toy Story Land, which is the theme of this race. So I would assume they'll have some Toy Story characters out there. They did for the 10 miler last year. They were right as you entered by the entrance sign there, the Toy Story Land sign. They had, I believe, Woody and Bo Peep were last year. So I would assume, they would have them again, but you never know. Run Disney does change things up from time to time. And then you'll go out down Sunset Boulevard, out behind, back by Fantasmic, yep, and then out onto the roadway. And that's kind of where this course kind of suffers. It's very front-loaded. You get, basically from the start through mile 5, you are all in parks, or, in your highlights of the course. Then from 5 until basically 9, so 4 miles, there ain't much anything. It's all roadway. So that's kind of the downside of this course. Like I said, it's the reverse of the 10K, where the 10K, all your fun is kind of on the back half. This one, all your fun's on the front half, and you kind of get stuck with that. But anyways, at mile 9, you'll enter back into Epcot by the Imagination Pavilion, the land area there. You'll do a little turn around. You'll do a little hairpin turn, or not really a hairpin turn, but a turn around by those shops as you just enter World Showcase, those 2 shops there. And then back out under or between Connections Creations, and then out to the normal finish. And that is the Toy Story 10 miler. Hopefully they listen and put some great characters and stuff like that out on those roadways. I think that's my biggest negative to this course. I love it because you run through basically all of Hollywood Studios, which this is the only race you can do that. None of the other races do that. But it just kind of suffers in terms of that big stretch of roadway. I'm not really sure what else they could do with that, with being a 10 miler, because it's not like the half. You have an extra 3 miles to work with when you need to go to Magic Kingdom and back. I don't know, just some stuff to think about. But that is kind of it for this race weekend. There's not much really different from anything we haven't done before. So if you're familiar with Run Disney, it's pretty standard, pretty normal stuff. Don't freak out. Just touch on runner tracking will be available April 10th. They say. Sometimes that is accurate, sometimes that's not. Just like they said things about the guide, and then it wasn't. I don't know. Sometimes they say things they're going to be ready by this date, and then it's not. But you roll with it. But they say April 10th for runner tracking sign up, so be watching for that. Spectator viewing. I didn't really touch on that for any of the races, but I'll touch on it now. 5K, the only really spectating point is the start and the finish. There's really nowhere else to spectate that course because the park is closed. 10K, it's a little bit different. You have the start and finish, of course, but then you also have the Boardwalk Beach Club area. Now, the caveat to the Boardwalk Beach Club area is they usually classify those as quiet zones because they are resorts and it is 5 in the morning. They want people to be quiet and respectful of the people staying at the resorts that are not running. So you can be out there. You just may have to be quiet, not yelling and screaming and using noisemakers and those kind of things. And then for the 10 miler, really it's kind of the same as the 10K because you can cheer on the boardwalk area again, and of course the start and finish. But Hollywood Studios will be closed when we're running through it, and Epcot will be closed when we're running through it. So there's really no other points to spectate. I know sometimes people will be out at the Epcot bus loop area, which we should run through at towards the end when we get we come back in by Imagination and stuff over there. But that's really it. There's no other really spectating areas on this course. So it's kind of I guess the downside is it's not a great spectating course compared to say the Marathon Weekend or Princess Half, and then of course the full marathon where you have a ton of spots to really spectate those. But that's going to do it. I think there's really not much else to touch on when it comes to this weekend. Like I said, it's pretty much exactly the same as it was last year. If you have any questions, obviously you can reach out to me in the comments or on my Instagram, Ryan Runs Disney. And of course, read the guide for yourself. That's going to probably answer most of your questions. Definitely always want to check the guide just to see what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, that's going to do it. We'll see you hopefully at Springtime Surprise.